She never screamed. No one would have come. She learned early that silence was safer than truth, and obedience less painful than resistance. The walls heard what the world never did. The night witnessed what daylight denied. Every cry was swallowed before it reached her lips. But heaven was not deaf. Long before she found the courage to speak, God had already heard her cry. Not the sound of it, but the weight of it. And that quiet listening would one day save her life. The violence that leaves no bruise and wounds bleed. Others disappear into the body and never leave. Her abuse left no visible marks, no broken bones, no scars the world could point to and say, yes, this is real. And because there was no proof, there was no protection. She was taught directly or indirectly that her pain was inconvenient, embarrassing, disruptive. Silence became survival. The abuse was not only in what was done to her, in what was demanded of her afterward. Endure, obey, forget when silence is forced. Not chosen people often misunderstand silence. They think it is weakness, or consent, or forgetfulness. But silence is often a cage built by fear. She did not speak, because speaking would have cost her everything: family, safety, stability, dignity. Silence was not her choice. It was imposed, and God knew the difference, the loneliness of unbelieved pain. Pain is heavy. Unbelieved pain is unbearable. She tried to hint. She tried to signal. She tried to say just enough without saying too much. But the world prefers comfort over confrontation, so it looked away. That loneliness, the knowledge that even truth might not save you, is where faith is either crushed or reborn. God who sees in secret. Scripture often speaks of a God who sees in secret, not the public sins, not the visible suffering, but the hidden tears, the quiet endurance, the prayers never spoken aloud. God heard what no one else did, not because her cries were loud, but because He listens differently. God does not require articulation to understand. Pain, the cry without words. Her prayers did not sound holy. They were not structured. They were not polite. Sometimes they were rage. Sometimes they were numbness. Sometimes they were nothing at all. But God does not listen for perfection. He listens for truth. And the truth was this: she was breaking. Shame. The second, violence. Abuse does not end when the act ends. It continues through shame. She learned to hate her own body, to distrust her own memory, to question her own worth. Shame convinced her that silence was righteousness, but shame does not come from God. God never confuses purity with silence in the face of injustice. When faith feels complicated, faith was not simple for her. God felt distant, sometimes complicit, sometimes unbearably silent. She asked the questions no one wants to hear. Where were you? Why didn't you stop it? Did you see me at all? These questions did not push God away. They brought her closer. The God who hears the oppressed throughout history. God is described as the one who hears the cry of the oppressed, not the powerful, not the loud, not the respected, the abused, the silenced. The unseen. God does not wait for perfect testimony. He responds to suffering itself. Survival is not weakness. She survived. That alone was an act of courage. Survival does not look heroic. It looks quiet. It looks slow. It looks ordinary. But survival is resistance, and God honors it. The moment she spoke, the day she finally spoke, was not triumphant. It was terrifying. Her voice shook. Her body remembered. Her fear returned. But she was no longer alone. God had been preparing the ground long before. She found the words, "Truth does not always bring justice." Speaking did not fix everything. Some doubted. Some minimized. Some defended the abuser. Faith did not guarantee justice. It guaranteed presence. God did not abandon her when people failed her again. Healing is not linear. Healing did not move forward in a straight line. Some days were strong. Others collapsed into memory. Faith did not rush her. God does not demand recovery on a schedule. Healing, like creation, unfolds in stages. Reclaiming the body abused turns the body into an enemy. Healing made it a home. Again, slowly, gently, with patience. God's presence did not erase memory, but it restored dignity. From victim to witness, her story did not define her, but it shaped her compassion. She learned to recognize silent suffering in others. Her voice became refuge, not loud, not angry, honest. God's justice is not always immediate. God's justice does not always look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like restoration. Sometimes it looks like survival. Sometimes it looks like a life. Reclaimed faith that walks with. Trauma faith did not demand she forget. It walked with her memory. God does not heal by erasing the past. He heals by entering it. For those still silent, if you are reading this and still cannot speak, God hears you. If your cry has no sound, He hears it. If your silence feels endless, He is still listening. The final truth: she was abused in silence, but she was never unheard. God heard every cry. She could not speak, and in that divine listening, she found the strength to live again, not untouched, not unscarred, but unbroken.